Shall we begin?
You are now listening to an altogether less fashionable variety of soccer podcast. Broadcasting live from the capital city of Columbus, Ohio. Welcome to
ACES Radio.
I got the new wings with the Zima flavor sauce.
I've given this no thought whatsoever.
Hashtag probably riding cock.
They're in your face. They're a little different. I think it's super cool. I love them. Jamie, ignorant slut.
Hold on to your butts.
Now, here are your hosts.
Not Morgan Hughes. Rest.
John Zadar. And Darby Snarpus.
Greetings, edgelords, shitlords, and bezlords. You're listening to another episode of ACES Radio, the podcast that has just announced Dominic Kinnear as its new interim host. It is October 29th. We have suffered through yet another week of Columbus Crew soccer. But before we talk about the raging colonoscopy that we all just experienced, let's check in with everybody who decided to associate themselves with this trash pocket. Brent Miller, how are you doing this week, my friend? What's new in your life?
I'm doing all right. I've been watching a lot of Bar Rescue, so if anybody out there wants a managing partner for their up-and-coming bar, feel free to hit me up.
That's a great show. John Taffer told Donald Trump he's interested in running for public office. What do you think about that, Brent?
I have no opinion about that whatsoever.
So a lot of Bar Rescue, so you're watching the Paramount Network these days, which is basically just the Bar Rescue Network. That's all they show.
I mean, it's pretty quality programming, and I feel like I really know everything about the bar industry now after watching this for 3 or 4 days. So,
oh my God, Bront, I invite you to come work the bar with me tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, Brent, at some point you should go find one of the websites that reviews what happens to those bars after he leaves, because they've got an 80% fold rate anyway. Sometimes they are literally out of business before the episode even airs.
Seriously? Holy
yeah,
shit.
a lot of them are already closed. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But the show is a ton of fun to watch, and somehow I'll consistently watch, I'll say 3 or 4 episodes a week, because it's just something that's on. It's easy to flip past when nothing's going on. And I feel like I never actually see the same episode twice, no matter how many times I watch it. So
I have heard of the show, but have never watched it.
I mean, it's kitchen nightmares for bars. It's pretty solid, especially seeing some of the weird bar concepts that people come up with and somehow think will work. It's pretty great.
Yeah, the pirate bar. I don't know how they thought that one was going to work, but
yeah, I don't know, but that one bartender was he was really attached to that concept, man. He was all in on that.
Sometimes you're just looking.
What does that even mean? A pirate bar? Just the decor is pirate and
The decor was pirate. All of the bartenders and service staff were dressed and talk like pirates, but not just for their jobs. This was a thing that these people did all the time. They really thought that they were pirates.
So when they're clocked out, they're still "Arr, matey, I'm gonna fucking change your oil."
Yeah, no joke. That's actually what these people were like.
Yeah.
Those people need to see a fucking therapist, not open a bar.
Yeah, imagine people who are so into LARPing that they just do it 24/7.
Yikes.
Yeah. All right. Well, so, John, what's been going on in your world? Brent's been watching Bar Rescue. How have you been filling your days?
Oh, man. I have been working basically nonstop at the new job, so not a lot else going on in my life. I got yesterday off, which is my first day off in a week, and I really only got it off because I was like, if you don't take me off the schedule tomorrow, I'm not coming in regardless because I need a fucking break, so we may as well adjust the schedule to account for me not being here. And then I'm supposed to work next 10 days or something in a row. Although I do think I got Monday off that's coming up, but of course there's also a mandatory meeting that day. So do I really have it off? I don't know if that counts.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So, but very, very busy. But the reception for the opening of this place has been really good. Lots of customers, lots of business. So hopefully it all pays off when I get that paycheck. So. Other than that, not much. I mean, I've been so busy, like I told you guys, I didn't even get to watch either of the games this week. I've worked through both of them, so.
Well, good news is you were the smartest one of any of us in that context.
Yeah, it sounds like I was the only one working when we're talking about crew players, so.
Yeah, I've just been sitting at home trying not to watch things that are politically related, trying not to watch the state of Ohio slowly creep its way into being a COVID cesspit. I did take part in a nice webinar about how to care for your birds in the winter. I've apparently become that guy.
Do you own a bird?
No, like outside birds.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're not your birds then, Darby.
Right.
You don't own those birds.
I have a personal connection to them. I don't think we've named any of the birds in our backyard, but we have 2 blue jays now, John. This is very exciting.
Blue jays are, while very cool and pretty to look at, colossal dickheads.
You're right. They are the Kai Kamara of birds.
All right, ignoring your dumb comment.
They will come into your penalty box and steal your eggs. I mean, balls.
Don't birds fly south for the winter? Isn't that
not every bird, Brant? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, they all get on one big airplane and they all fly to the same location, Brent. Yeah, that's how it works. No, some birds come from further north and basically spend the winter in Ohio because they live in such a ridiculous part of Canada, say, that Ohio seems like a tropical paradise. But basically this webinar that I sat in on was put out food and grow bushes. And I'm like, thanks.
What is this, birds for fucking idiots?
Yeah. And then there was a section where each of the hosts talked about their favorite bird story, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm clearly the most normal person on this webinar right now because I don't have a favorite bird story.
Darby's like, when do we get to the portion where you talk about how to have sex with the animal?
God. I miss this podcast so much in the 6 days that I'm not doing it. All right, well, if you want to talk about that sort of thing, I guess I'm going to change subject to something even more painful, which is Columbus Crew soccer. For those of you who are listening, we're not going to break down these individual games because they don't deserve to be broken down. Instead, we're going to have Brent basically, he's going to rattle off a quote from that guy who nominally is in charge of coaching the team. And then we'll just discuss what he said and why he's dumb and stupid and probably smells bad. So Brent, first let's hear the quote relating to the Houston game, which was a 1-1 draw in which Houston scored for both teams.
Yeah, so in the post-game press conference, Caleb Porter's opening remarks were as follows. It's a game you have to kind of keep in perspective overall. We're on the road, traveled 3 hours on a flight the same day as the game. We're playing on a choppy field. We go down a goal. When you consider all those things, I think it's a good point. So the question for you two, and John, I know you didn't watch the game, but I feel like you can still answer this adequately. The question is, do you agree with this? Is this a good point?
I would say fucking no. I would say that is a pretty embarrassing and pathetic excuse of an answer. I mean, Houston's not a great team. They're a very middle-of-the-road team. I don't particularly give a fuck what the travel conditions are. It's a fucking weird, crazy season. Everyone is dealing with this kind of stuff. The other good teams are going on the road under similar conditions, so they're getting results. I mean, other than like him coming out and saying, "Yeah, we didn't play well enough. We have to do better. We know that more is expected of us." I don't particularly like care what Caleb Porter has to say anymore. Like all he ever has is like really like thin fucking excuses. So I didn't watch the game, but it sounded like it was pretty lame. 1-1 draw is pretty lame.
All right, Drabs, what say you? Good point. Did you want more? Do you think we were lucky to get that point?
I mean, Caleb Porter is full of shit. Houston is next to dead last in the West. They're a team that is currently 4-8-9.
Fourth from last overall.
Right. Sure. It was a road game. Do you know what else was a road game? Every other road game. This is a thing you have to do. This is a thing that every team has to do. You have to go on the road and compete. And you get points, and ideally as many points as you can, out of these road games. This is a year where, you fly down the same day. A 3-hour flight is not the worst thing you'll ever experience. To come out flat, to just not have any offense, not have any fire. It's an adequate point if you're a mid-tier team that has no hopes of going anywhere in the playoffs. But for a team that maybe expects more, Nashville came into Houston Stadium on October 14th and won there 3-1. I think that's probably the kind of result you'd hope for, because it's not like Nashville is a high-flying team. But sure, Caleb, if you're satisfied with that trash result and you want to blame the field and, you want to blame going down a goal, I would suggest maybe not going down a goal as a way to counteract that. But yeah, sure, you'd be happy with that point. What did you think of the quote, Brent?
Yeah, I think you guys both hit it. This is a garbage thing for our coach to be saying at this point in the season. I know there was another time during that press conference where he actually said that, this was the worst field that they've played on all season. I don't care. Houston's a bad team. Other teams have gone in there and have gotten results against them, gotten wins against them, I should say. So none of this makes a difference to me. And Drabs, this is the one time you'll ever hear me compliment you. But I love the point that you just made, that saying, we went down a goal as an excuse is not a very good excuse, because your job is to not go down a goal. Like, I don't understand how that's a valid excuse for you not doing your job.
Yeah, remember when we were couldn't blink without fucking seeing something, being like, "Oh, Crew have a historically great defense. Jerk this fucking wiener, they're so good."
Which, to that point, as frustrating as that is, we have still given up the least amount of goals in MLS. Think about the run of form that we've been in. How I think we've gotten 4 points out of the last 5 games, which is the bottom 4 teams in MLS through the last 5 games. But we've still given up the least amount of goals in the league.
Yeah, it's close. There's a couple teams at 18, which is one more than us, but yeah. I guess we're not losing by large margins, but at the end of the day, a loss is a loss, and frankly, it doesn't matter how much you lose by. Or draw by,
Oh, yeah, not at all. My point was more the historically great, start to this season, and to see the way that it's fallen off these last couple weeks, or month, or however long it's been. It's frustrating beyond belief.
It's 1 win and 2 draw 2 draws in our last 7 games, so that's 5 points from 7 games, which is a possible, what's 7 times 3? 21?
Yes.
So,
That is how the math works, yeah.
Pretty shit.
Yeah, and we're, 6 points behind?
We're
9. We're 9 points behind now.
Yeah, behind first place. Yeah, 9.
We might as well be an infinite number of points behind.
Although points, maybe those don't matter anymore. Apparently.
Oh, that's what they call a tease in the industry, John. Yeah, the Crew have not had a shutout in the last 8 games. That's 8. The record-setting defense took an early vacation. Given up at least 1 goal in the last 8 games. And yes, still leading the league overall in terms of goals allowed, but what have you done for me lately? All right, do you want to talk about the second stupid quote from the second stupid game?
Yeah, sure. All right, so Crew goes on the road to DC. Crew are shit, and they also lost 0-1. Quote from Caleb Porter as follows. I don't think it's going to be one that we dissect and go through a ton, because at the end of the day, we're going to put our best foot forward with our top lineup in these last 3 games. What does that say to you?
I think this is an interesting quote because previously we had heard him say that he was going to do rotation so that the Union game and the Orlando City game would have the top lineup, and no mention then of the last game, which would be Atlanta United. So it's interesting to me now that he's saying all 3 games will have a top lineup. I'm not sure if I really believe it, just because of the logistics. I acknowledge there has to be rotation, but given that they shit the bed and squandered these points, they now have to keep their foot on the gas because they're in real danger of not having a home playoff game. And as we've seen lately, this team is trash on the road. The Crew have still not won a road game outside of the bubble this season.
Yikes. I guess I knew that, but I hadn't really considered it, and hearing you say it just kind of punched it home. But yeah, they're tied right now on points per game, which is the new decider for 4th place. So with Orlando, and Orlando's a better team than we are, so they're going to rise above us. And New York's not far behind.
Yeah, I mean, there are no games in hand when it comes to Orlando. So basically, each team has 3 games left. They each have 2 home games and 1 road game. But yeah, whatever Orlando does, the Crew have to match or do better. Currently, the Crew have the tiebreaker based on number of wins. They have 1 more win than Orlando does, and that keeps them ahead, even though they're tied on points per game. But I mean, you have to keep the accelerator to the floor now, whatever that even looks like at this point. What about you, Brent? What are your thoughts? Oh, sorry, John, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is number of wins the first decider for ties, or is it head-to-head even in there anymore? They changed that.
I think they actually had something different on their website.
If head-to-head matters, the next Wednesday may be pretty fucking big.
So the tiebreaker list, you have total number of wins, followed by goal differential, followed by goals. And these are per match, incidentally. So it's goal differential per match. So I guess, again, since they have to go with points per game, the tiebreakers also have to be per game. So total wins, goal differential, goals for. Then where do you even see what the goal differential per game, what per game, and what is that? What? I mean, somebody will have to do the math for it.
Yeah, you take your goal differential and then you divide it by the amount of matches that particular team played.
MLS is so fucking stupid. I can't believe that's the second tiebreaker, and that isn't a statistic included on the fucking standings.
Well, yeah, because they had to make it up. And also, Brent, technically the goal differential per match is the difference in goals for per match minus goals against per match. So it's even.
So it would be the GD for every game, and then add them, and then divide by the amount of games, right? Or no? Or you average them.
I mean, so I'm not sure.
Our GD for the last two games would be what, 0.5? We scored one and we gave up two, right? I don't know.
I mean,
how do you figure that? I don't know.
I guess the thing is, like, if the Crew and Orlando keep pace, assuming they get the same set of 3 results, then the Crew have the tiebreaker just based on wins. If they get differing results, then you might have to start going through some of this bull crap. I think the way I don't even know. There's probably still too many permutations, but it's going to be ridiculous and dumb, and we wouldn't be having this conversation if the team would take more points from winnable games. But Brent, what were your thoughts when you heard Caleb say this thing?
Real quick before we go there, I mean, to what you just said about taking points from winnable games, if you take that Cincinnati game that you just lost, you lost to Houston, you lost to DC. What was the other? Just bottom of the barrel. Yeah. There was one other bottom of the barrel game.
We lost to Montreal. It's not a good loss.
Yeah, that was the one I was trying to think of, Montreal. If you take those 4 and you get 3 points from those, like just those 4 games against teams that you should have been able to beat by sleepwalking into that stadium, you're at the top. Like, this is infuriating.
Even if you only took 3 points from 2 of those games, you're second place. It's like bafflingly inept, like how this team has been managed and how this team has performed over the past month or so.
Yeah,
they've had so many opportunities, and Philly and Toronto have both stumbled here or there along the way. So there's been opportunities for them to get caught back up, but they haven't taken them at every turn. Every time there's been a little stumble by the other teams, we've kicked ourselves in the fucking dick.
Yeah, several weeks ago we talked about 2 points per game, and like that being probably the right threshold for being in the driver's seat and being competitive for the supporter shield. Right now, there is only one team in the league that is over 2 points per game, and that's the Union at 2.1. So if the team had managed to hover around that 2-point line right now, they'd be in striking distance. And instead, I want to die.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. But getting back to that quote, I don't know. It's frustrating to me. That's going to be a theme throughout the night.
Just real quick math, not to interrupt. You can keep going.
No, go for it.
I just did some quick math. Even if they win the final 3 games, the Crew can no longer reach 2 points per game.
Which means it's Philly's spot to lose. Which, of course, we know. Like, it would, even if the Crew got 9 points and the Union got no points, they would be tied on points and points per game. They would be tied on number of wins. So you'd start looking at goal differential, which currently Philly has a 9-goal lead in that category.
Yeah, 9 points from the last 3 games, so that's all 3 wins. Would put the Crew at 1.91,
yeah.
Which is actually still lower than even Toronto currently sits. So it wouldn't even put them in first, depending on how the other 2 teams play.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brent. Go ahead. I just wanted to get that in while we were still talking about that.
No, you're good. It was a good thing to point out. But I listened to this, and it sounds like he's saying, I don't care about this game. Like, I know that this wasn't your first choice lineup. You couldn't even call this a second choice lineup. Like, this mix of players was not ideal. But for you to say that you're not going to dissect this and you're not going to go through this game and, because the next 3 games you're playing, Celeron and Nagby. Well, guess what? They came into the game in like the 55th minute. They had a decent amount of playing time, and your team still didn't do anything with them on the field. I want to know why. I would think you would want to know that too. Like, what were these weird struggles in your final third? He said at one point during the press conference that they executed well, except in the final third. No, you didn't. What part of your game plan can I go back through that game and say, yes, I see what your plan was there. That's a good job. I watched Jonathan and Bouba Keita pass the ball back and forth between themselves like 100 times within the span of 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. How is that a part of your game plan that you executed well?
I don't get how this is not a game you're going to analyze. We've got, you should be, this is like every game is a fucking teaching opportunity, right? Like, you've got a guy who's literally just joined the team. He's brand new. Christian Nemeth. Why are you not going to analyze this game and say, hey, Christian, here's what you did wrong and here's what you did well. This is your first game out. Like, let's go over some tape and point out what we think is working and what's not. You've got, 3 or 4 fucking dudes in the starting lineup who are, like, hovering between 18 and 23 years old. These are fucking young kids, especially people like Berhalter, Keita. Why are you not going over tape with them? Even Diaz and Cadden. I know they're like a couple years older, but like young guys, like, go over this game. This is a game that I think is an extreme learning opportunity because I think that they're, it's such an extreme situation. You're losing to one of the worst teams in the league. Something drastically went wrong for that to be the case, and these guys need to be shown what, so that they don't repeat it. Like, it just seems like such an idiotic claim to be like, yeah, we're not going to even analyze this. We're not thinking about it. We're not going to go over it anymore. Like, we're just like on to the next one kind of situation. There's too many new guys and young guys that could benefit from being shown what happened in this unique situation, which is you all came out and you're played down to a bad team. The Crew are better than DC. Like, despite current form, the Crew are a better team than DC United. If they played that game, 10 times, I would expect the Crew to win it at least, 75% of the games. Like, they're just better. So why are we not showing them why it's not the problems and why it's not okay to play down to the level of your opposition?
Yeah, I made the comment last week that there is not a lineup that the Crew could put together with their current roster that should lose to this team, to this DC team. And Caleb Porter apparently took that as a challenge and tried to trot out a lineup that would do that. But even with that lineup, I still stick to what I said. This team, the lineup that he put out there was in control. It wasn't good. It wasn't pretty, but they were in control for a majority of the game. They looked at least equal to the lineup that United put out there. Like, this lineup had no excuse for why they should lose. And the fact that you're going to say you're not going to break this one down because you're moving on, I just don't understand that at all. If somebody out there wants to explain to me that, this is actually the way every pro soccer team works and they don't break down their games when they use a secondary lineup, feel free. But it seems stupid to me.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't watch, but looking at the box score, which we've said before, obviously isn't the whole story here, but like statistically, this is not one of those games like when they played Montreal where they just dominated statistic-wise, but couldn't finish. This is a pretty even game. I mean, DC outshot them. The Crew outpassed them, but not by a lot. They outpossessed them, but not by a lot, just a couple percentage points.
It's funny that they didn't outpass by that much when, again, like I said, Jonathan and Keita passed the ball back and forth between themselves from 15 yards apart probably 1,000 times.
Yeah, I mean, the Crew only made, it looks like, like 25 more passes in total than DC, which is typically, I want to say that Montreal game, it was something like over 100 more passes, which is, a lot. They weren't more accurate when their passes, 84% to 80%. That's not that big of a difference. It's the difference between a couple passes going astray. I mean, possession was a 3% difference. Duels 1 is a difference of like 8. Tackles 1 is a difference of 2. I mean, statistically, this is a very close game. So I not having seen the play, like if you were like, yeah, the Crew are one of the best teams in the league, and the DC are one of the worst teams in the league, and then I look at the stat line, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, which team are you lying about?
Yeah, I mean, this is, DC is a team that's led by an interim coach right now because Ben Olsen got relieved of his duties because the team was so bad. A team that lost Luciano Acosta and Wayne Rooney in the offseason. A
team that Higuain couldn't even get time on.
Right. I mean,
says a lot about Higuain, I think. But
I mean, they lost Boateng. They lost Chris Durkin. Like, this is a team that is missing a lot of pieces. Paul Arriola blew, I think, his ACL back in February. Whether or not you want to analyze this game, you need to do some fucking soul searching over it because you're about one loss away from having to travel during the playoffs. And then you're going to need to look at this game and analyze what you did wrong because this is like game A1 of what to not fucking do if you want to go anywhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, the 3 points that DC just took from us were what put them into the final playoff position. They haven't clinched it or anything, but they're now in a position that they will make the playoffs. They needed that game against us to get them into the playoff race in a league where over 50% of the teams are going to make it.
Right, there are only four teams in our fucking conference that aren't making the playoffs out of 14.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other thing with that quote, Brent, and this is maybe going to transition a little bit into some more general discussion. Caleb Porter said that Jossie is only 50-50 for the next game, so you might not have your top lineup in the next 3 games. Namath started those last 2 games because Jossie got injured in training. So Namath literally hadn't even trained with the team before he started in Houston, and then got a couple of days before this DC game. So you don't have your top lineup automatically available to you coming into these last 3 games, which makes these easier ones all the more important. I mean, in those 2 games, the Crew scored no goals. Houston scored both goals in that tie, and DC scored the only goal in that game.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to mention that. I know we weren't breaking down, but, the last time that we had a game like that, I think it was it Minnesota? I don't remember. Somebody scored an own goal, and John, you made the comment that, this team scored, whatever team that was, scored 3 versus that team also scoring 1, and the Crew were also on the field. It was the same thing for Houston.
Yeah.
Was our goal an own goal?
It was.
Yeah.
We did not score a goal. It was a Houston own goal.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so in the last 7 games, the Crew have only scored 4 deliberate goals from the run of play. And then they scored 5 janky goals. So you had 2 own goals from opponents. You had the ball off Jossie's face. You had a Pedro penalty kick. and then you had a blocked Jossie penalty kick that he put back on the rebound. So in terms of just the flowing, attacking soccer from run of play, the Crew have actually gotten more sort of bullshit goals than ones that involve skill, if we're entirely honest here. That's not where you want to be in October. October, going into the playoffs. Terrible.
I don't have anything else to say. I've been saying that this was a possibility for months now, so I mean.
Yeah. All right. Brent, you have any more about this bullshit, or should we go talk about some other things for a while?
Now let's move on.
Okay. What other cheerful, happy news do we have to kind of bring Crew fandom around right now? Oh, that's right. Everybody's favorite defender, Josh Williams, has apparently been suspended by the league for violating unspecified rules. He was suspended for 4 games. He has now actually already served 3 of them, because he served 2 of them before anybody was ever actually notified that he was suspended, because MLS is a completely opaque and garbage league. So after, I think it was the Houston game, Caleb Porter was asked about why he and Hector hadn't been on the roster, and Caleb implied it was about player rotation. As it turns out, that was bullshit, because Josh was suspended. And
This just in, Caleb Porter lies to you all the time.
Right. Yeah, he didn't explicitly say, like, he talked generally about players in rotation, so he essentially kind of dodged the question. But the question itself was specifically about Josh and Hector, and Porter took it and spoke in very general terms, so as I think to not have to answer this. Jacob Myers did a little bit of sleuthing and found a recent speeding ticket from Josh Williams in the Franklin County county court website. But one would think that speeding in and of itself wouldn't be a 4-game suspension sort of thing. I'm assuming we'll never hear any more about this, but that does at least explain why Josh Williams was magically absent for a couple of games. And as John said, it reinforces the fact that Caleb Porter just isn't going to tell fans shit. Any thoughts on this? Brent, have you heard from GCG Bag? Are they all still wearing black and like rending their garments in mourning?
Well, as a GCG boy myself, I can say that yes, we are. This is a very difficult time for us. Your thoughts and prayers are greatly appreciated. But
So what? These past 2 games are his first 2 suspensions, right?
He served 3 of the 4 at this point.
Yeah, DC would have been the 3rd game of the 4.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw his survey, but Mike Cornell put out a survey about what we think Josh did to get that suspension, and I really hope that it was option number 4 on that survey. I don't remember what the first 3 were, but option number 4 was that Josh Williams called Don Garber the C word. It would be perfect if that was the reason for the suspension.
That would be funny.
I would contribute to the fine fund for that being the case, because the lesson, as always, fuck Don Garber. All right. Yeah, so that was cheerful news. In what I would actually say is much more positive news, there was also an article in the Dispatch, and they talked about it in the broadcast as well. Lucas Zelarayan has been, as a part of his time here in Columbus recently, has been working with a sports psychologist. Since he had the culture shift of coming to MLS, coming to a place where he doesn't necessarily speak the language, coming into a fucked up COVID world, dealing with injuries. They had a nice article about him and the work that he's been doing to kind of help himself adjust. And I think this sort of thing is really nice because, mental health is still a thing that people don't love to talk about in this country, and there's still significant stigma attached to it. We don't know fully what all Lucas has been dealing with, but obviously he's had some challenges he's been facing, and I thought this was really cool, and also a nice example of somebody being willing to open up to the community. I'm sure it was not easy for him to have this conversation with a reporter, knowing that it would go out into the world. So what are your thoughts about all this? I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you both think that this is a good idea generally, but do you have any sort of thoughts based on that article?
I think it sounds like a great idea. We've had a lot of problems here in Columbus with players coming over and, leaving because they're, quote, homesick or whatever other, issues they're having, which seem to basically stem back to them, not feeling like they fit in or are able to, make this place a home. And, there's plenty of science that says exercise affects your mental well-being. And so I don't see why it wouldn't also go the other way. So I think this is great and really cool. And I hope this is like a new permanent fixture of the team for players that come from outside of the States.
Yeah, I think, teams have historically had that sort of concierge position where somebody is there to take care of a transition as far as finding a place to live and getting connected with the community and stuff. But this is an aspect we haven't heard a lot about previously. What do you think, Brent?
I actually didn't get a chance to read that article yet, but I did hear them mention it on the broadcast. And, anytime that you can normalize people taking care of their mental health, that's always a great thing. Being willing to talk about that, it's courageous and always appreciated.
Yeah, and for them to mention it on the broadcast as well, assuming that I assume he's okay with the concept, but yeah, just making it a normal part of the daily conversation about sports or even life. I mean, God, how many of us I could probably use to talk to a shrink these days, just with everything going on. And I haven't had injuries that have sort of sidetracked my career or changed countries or anything like that. So I think the lesson here is let's all go get therapy. Especially you, John. I've been meaning to talk to you about this, John. You need some serious help.
And Drabs will pay for it.
I appreciate you bringing it up now in this public forum. Thank you very much.
I know, right? Yeah. Okay. Just as a brief thing, good news, guys. Aiden Morris, who'd been playing really well, is fucking injured. He hyperextended his knee in the Houston game, I believe. And he's going to be out, guess how long? Couple of weeks, courtesy of Caleb Porter. So what this probably means is that his leg has been amputated at the knee, and he will be out for 5 years. But Caleb Porter doesn't want to say it. Given that Nagby has come back, how big of a blow do you think this is? Is this Are we covered now because the starter's back and healthy, or is this going to be problematic down the stretch?
I mean, I think this is probably, obviously, you don't want to see anybody get hurt, especially not a young kid who's been playing well. But if Nagby's well and truly back, then, he probably wasn't going to be getting much, if any, time at all. If Artur and Nagby are healthy, they are the starters for sure. And, with the season basically wrapping up and us not necessarily having 2 games a week for more than another week, there's not going to be a whole lot of squad rotation going, right? So I'm disappointed that he's hurt. I hope he gets better soon. I hope he comes back full and 100%, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be that big of a...
Yeah, and Brent, it's clear Caleb Porter likes Fatai Alashe anyway, for reasons we can't determine. So what do you think is the impact?
I tend to agree with John. I don't think there is going to be much of one outside of, if Nagby is not full match healthy yet. I think Morris probably should have been the first sub for him. I tend to rate him over Alashe. Caleb Porter might not. It's kind of hard to tell over the last however many games. It seems like he might have finally woken up to the fact that Morris is better. But other than, if something were to happen to Darlington Nagby again, God forbid, I don't think there's much of an impact at this time in the season.
That's totally fair. Yeah, even with the 5 subs a game that we get this season, I do think Nagby's always going to be the guy. If a defensive midfielder is being subbed in, it's because probably something went wrong. So hopefully this doesn't affect the game plans too much. But yes, I definitely would like to see Aiden Morris come back soon because he clearly proved that he belongs on this team. So. All right. So as John mentioned earlier, MLS also announced this week that standings in the playoffs are going to have to use a points per game system because Colorado Rapids fucked everything up and had to skip like 127 games because they couldn't stop catching the COVID. So basically there will be an uneven amount of games that have been played by the time the season is done. And they're just going to go points per game instead of punishing Colorado for being shitty at taking care of themselves. And I don't know if this is going to have a huge impact necessarily. It won't really affect the Crew, or I think most teams in the East, because I think the majority of the games, if not all, that Colorado missed were Western Conference games. Colorado is currently hovering at the bottom of the playoff standings in the West because of their points per game. Looks like this may have even given them a little bit of a strategic advantage. What do you guys think of this setup?
Well, firstly, it does affect the Crew a little bit because, now we're in a tie for 5th overall. When you throw the Western teams in there, whereas before this switch, we were, solely in 3rd.
You can call it the Supporter Shield standings, Brent. It's okay.
Whatever. I don't care. But no, I mean, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of weird to give a team an advantage for not being able to play all of their games. But I don't know. Short of just telling them, hey, screw you, none of your stuff counted, like you're out, what else they could really do? And I don't think that they would be willing to do that because it would affect certain contractual obligations, and we all know that MLS is not willing to touch their money.
Yeah, John, what do you think? Is this fair, or should the league have told Colorado to fuck off and forfeit the points?
Yeah, I think Colorado should have been told to hit the fucking bricks. You can't follow the rules, can't behave. That's your fucking problem. Like, I honestly am. I wish I could say I'm surprised that they're doing this, but I'm honestly not. MLS is just like so full of shit and so determined to like make themselves seem as uncredible as possible. But like, it's one fucking team. If it was multiple teams that have been having issues, and granted, things do happen that are outside of your control, but it's such a highly monitored, highly controlled environment for these professional athletes. It's just like everyone else, all the other teams managed to fucking do it. So, the fact that you couldn't do it and it cost you this many games is frankly shouldn't really be anybody's problem but yours. I think Colorado should have just been told, sorry, but tough shit. You didn't score enough points in the games you did play, so you're out.
Yeah, they have had to postpone 5 games in a row as a result, stretching from October 7th through October 21st. So they had to postpone games against LAFC, Galaxy, Seattle, RSL, and Sporting Kansas City, which of course also affects those teams' schedules and points per game. I think, they couldn't get their shit together like other teams did have. I mean, even the Crew had to delay a game, but they didn't have to delay 5 games. I mean, that's a lot of time to get your shit together that they just couldn't manage. But MLS gonna MLS, I guess.
I may have misunderstood, but I think I also saw where Seattle currently has a game in hand on us, which means 2 games in hand on the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah.
And I think I saw where they actually will not be playing one of those games. So there's one of the teams up near the top that'll be impacted by this decision as well.
But depending on how that game would have turned out, could benefit. Because right now they're 1.84 points per game, and Sporting Kansas City, who's right behind them, is at 1.8. So
Seattle
could make a difference.
Yeah, Seattle has 3 games left on their calendar against Colorado, because apparently, of course, Galaxy and the Quakes, which means they will probably be getting at least 6 more points from those 2 California games. So that's going to work out pretty well for them.
Yeah, this change has Colorado currently sitting in the final playoff spot in the West. They have actually 19 points, which if we were doing it by points based would put them second to last in the conference. But because they have 1.27 points per game, they're actually 8th. So they're ahead of Vancouver, Salt Lake, and Houston, who all have more points than them. But so there's still a chance that they could lose that spot, which frankly I would love to see. I'd love to see them not make the playoffs because that's frankly.
Yeah. So congratulations to Colorado Rapids. Not only are you the home of the bubonic plague in MLS, but you actually got a pass on being shitty at COVID.
Yeah, how crazy is it though? As many games as they have not played, they are still 1 point above the Galaxy. That's insane.
And 3 points above Cincinnati.
Yeah. Well, Brent, it's funny that you mentioned that because
is it Darby?
It is.
As Cincinnati has played 6 more games than them. Oh my god!
Yeah.
And John just killed it.
He totally did. How dare you, John? Brent set it up for the perfect transition, and then you went and had to go talk about Cincinnati. But I mean, I can't be mad anytime you shit on them, so it's
That's
okay.
Just so
but
embarrassing.
Yes.
All right, since we're already off topic, did you guys see that whole thing with the smoke in the supporter section and whatnot after the game that eliminated them from the playoffs?
Eliminated who? Cincinnati?
Cincinnati is officially eliminated from playoff contention. They will not be getting one of the playoff spots.
Oh, they are. They don't have a little symbol on the standings page for eliminated. So.
No, they don't. But after the game that officially sealed their fate, the team set off some smoke in the supporters section to apparently it was supposed to be some sort of tribute to their fans, but it just looked like they were celebrating. It was great.
Nothing that team does makes any fucking sense.
So ironically, if Cincinnati is eliminated, John, there is a letter in the standings to indicate eliminated from playoff race. It is an E. So if they're out, MLS is doing a shitty job of updating their website.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, they don't have a letter next to their name, because I would assume that the LA is probably should probably have that letter too. I don't.
Yeah, I have no idea, but it certainly seems like.
Darby, these standings were last updated approximately 3 minutes ago, so I don't know what you're talking. They're obviously not eliminated.
Well, you'll have to talk to Brent about that. He's the one who said they were eliminated.
I mean, I would assume that they are. They have 0.76 points per game.
Yeah, they're done. Their loss the other day combined with, was it New York or Atlanta? I don't know. There was one of the other teams had to win. There were two options, Miami or Atlanta, and I think Atlanta beat Toronto to tied or beat Toronto to seal Cincinnati's fate. So they are definitely out.
Yeah, I just did the quick math on it, and even if they win their 3 remaining games, they still will only have 1.04 points per game, which is 0.01 lower than Chicago has currently. So.
And Cincinnati should only have 2 games left because they have 21 played, so that makes it even harder.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yeah, Chicago's got 3 games to play. Maybe that's it.
Right.
Maybe Chicago, if they shit the bed 3 times, it would. I don't know. Anyway.
Either way, haha, fuck you, Cincinnati.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, this whole points per game thing, yeah, whatever. So, speaking of Galaxy, Brent, as you so aptly pointed out like 5 minutes ago before we went into stupid Cincinnati, everybody's favorite Crew player, Lord Guillermo, is officially out as head coach of the Galaxy, with literally the league's favorite interim coach, Dominic Kinnear, taking over in his place. Both Guillermo and his brother, Gustavo, were released by the team, along with a couple of other assistant coaches. Been a rough season for the Galaxy, and apparently they decided that Guillermo wasn't the guy. I know a lot of Crew fans were really hoping that he would come and be Columbus's coach. What are your feelings on his release in LA, and what are your feelings about what might have been in Columbus? And let's start with John.
Yeah, he did an abysmal job with LA. Didn't ever want him here. Don't think he would have done any better here. LA is one of the most freewheeling, high-spending teams in the league, both historically and recently. So if the guy can't make it work there, where he has basically free reign to get whomever he possibly wants, I think he's going to do it anywhere. It's okay that good players aren't good coaches. It's fine.
Brent, how do you feel? He certainly didn't have a lack of talent on his roster. Other than that team buying the horrendous train wreck that is Chicharito. They've got a solid set of players on that team overall that they clearly couldn't make it work.
Yeah, I don't know much about their setup. I don't know who had the ultimate say when it came to roster decisions, signing players and stuff like that. I'm certainly sorry to see him go out like that. Never wanted him to be embarrassed like that, but I am glad that relationship is over, because it was very hard to watch him be a part of that organization. And it always makes me happy to see the Galaxy at the bottom of the table. It's not disappointed by that. I said a couple of things on Twitter just to try to start some stuff a little while ago, because I was very bored. I made the comment that, GBS coaching a Bez bot roster would have us in better form than we are currently seeing right now. I don't think I actually believe that. That's a combination of frustration with Caleb Porter and boredom. But I would certainly say, I don't know that I would say that we're in a much better position to be able to be criticizing, despite the red heart start that we had to the season.
I mean, I think the lesson here, and one that Crew fans should already know, is you don't want your most beloved players to be a coach someday, because at some point they're going to let you down. And you're either going to hate the coach or you're going to be sad because your team failed as a result of them. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry for Guillermo. It didn't work out. Sorry, not sorry that the Galaxy suck. And I'm super glad that he did not wind up coming here to coach. I think that covers that. Any other league news we want to talk about before we go into question of the week segment? No? All right. Fan-fucking-tastic. John, Brent, I made a terrible mistake this week. Apart from just being on the podcast at all, I hopped on the Twitters on the ACES radio account, and I says to the world, world, what should we ask this week as our question of the week? And I'll be damned if a metric fuck ton of people didn't reply with questions. And so I thought maybe this week let's go through them all instead of just doing one of our questions. Let's just run through these submissions. We'll kind of do like a lightning round kind of style. Like, don't spend too much time. You can explain your answers, but don't we don't need any soliloquies here. John, I give you permission to server mute Brent if he says anything especially dumb in response to any of these items. So please feel free. In fact, I encourage it. Maybe you should preemptively server mute him right now, just so that he can't say dumb things.
Okay. Gone ahead and done that to Darby. I will go ahead and start reading the...
All right. Yeah, so do you want to, rotate? Or no, that's too complicated. I'll just ask questions, and then let's go Brent, John, me in order, and then we'll hit them one by one. Does that work? We clearly
good to me.
Clearly didn't think this shit out before I suggested it. All right. The first user submitted question comes to us from a username CrewPup96. Quote, "Why does it grow when I lick it?" End quote. John Zidar, your thoughts?
Well, you see, it's called transference of mass. When you're licking something, your saliva is transferring from your tongue to it, so you are actually making it bigger by licking it.
Miller, why does it grow when you lick it?
You see, it's actually called stimulation. When you lick it, you stimulate it, and when you stimulate it, the blood flows to it.
My response would be maybe Caleb Porter should lick the Crew's record on the road. Next question comes to us from Luke Shigeo. And this one slightly blew my mind. Should, quote, "What should our question of the week be this week?" End quote. Be the question of the week. John Zidar, is your mind blown?
I mean, I feel like it should, and it is, right?
Brent, what do you think?
I'm going to disagree with John on that one. It is, but it should not be.
My response is it's a damn shame we aren't doing drops this year, because this would be the time for the Inception drop. And also, I already regret this question of the week as it is. So, yeah. Third question this week comes from none other than everybody's favorite, Tony Hogan Lad Party. Eric, I don't want to say your last name because I'm terrible at your last name. Quote, "What Crew player do you think has the best culinary skills?" As our resident culinary expert, John, what are your thoughts on this question?
First of all, his last name is pronounced nematode. And second of all, the person with the best culinary skills is probably, probably Adi. I bet he can cook up a good cocktail.
All right, Brent, who's the best cook on the team?
Is that actually cooking? Does that count as culinary?
I don't know. Maybe it's like a flaming cocktail, right? I think as soon as you bring flame into the game, you're cooking, Brent.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, it says culinary. Making cocktails is a culinary skill. It's not cooking explicitly.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to go with Vito. I think he's had an entire season to stay at home and cook for his family, and he's been expanding his culinary repertoire.
Yeah, Vito's been learning to do sushi if you watch his Instagram. So congratulations on that. Who do I think is the best cook or culinary, what the fuck ever? Obviously John Kempen, because you gotta have culinary skills to fill a mouth like that. Right. Who's next? Next, we have a question from none other than the Drunken Cruiser, TK. And Brent, this is going to be up your alley, but you don't get to answer it first. Which G-bag was Josh Williams hanging with to catch a suspension? John Zadar, your thoughts?
I mean, obviously, it sounds like him and Orb Gardney were running from the cops, and that's why they got that speeding ticket.
Brent, you've got the insider view. Who was he hanging with?
Oh, it had to be everybody's favorite fourth grade teacher, Ethan McKinley.
So he's doing unfortunate things with an elementary school teacher. That's not awkward. I'm gonna say he was caught hanging out pantsless with everybody's favorite dad, Dave Faust. They were there rocking their facial hair, just full on Porky Pig in it, and the cops caught up with them. All right.
It's funny
Porky Pig in it.
Yeah.
It is funny though that probably the most likely candidate was the one that asked the question, and none of us used him as the answer.
I specifically did that on purpose. Yeah.
It's too easy. It's like, answering Josh Williams when they say who's the crew player you would most want to be involved in a threesome with, and the correct answer is Josh Williams, and also Josh Williams again. The next question.
Josh was going to be the answer for the culinary thing too, but I'm trying not to use him for every question.
That's fair. All right, next question comes from user Mitch from Ohio. This is a two-part question, which is a clear violation of the rules, but who gives a fuck? Let's do it. Who is the most hated crew player on our current roster, and which infamously dirty MLS player would you want to play on our team but hate playing against? That's like a three-part question at that point. But John, do you want to give a shot here?
Which your current player is hated the most?
Just want to explain, this is hated by other teams, like when they have to play against him.
Oh, are you sure though? Because I think probably a lot of people hate Pedro.
Because I asked that question very specifically. Because he used Steven Lenhart as an example. I was like, I didn't hate Steven Lenhart, so I'm not sure what you're trying to say here.
I think it's probably honestly is Pedro, because he goes down a lot, and he goes down pretty easy, and that can be really frustrating to play against. As far as what infamously dirty MLS player would you want to play on your team but hate playing against? I think probably, I don't know. When people ask who I think about, I hated having to play against in MLS, I always think of fucking Rafa Marquez, so I'm going to say that. I don't know if Rafa Marquez is technically a especially dirty player, but I never liked playing against him, and he's a Mexican national team player, so I've always disliked him for lots of reasons, so I'm going to say. And he was good.
Sounded slightly racist there.
Why?
was just kidding, but you said, and he was a Mexican player.
Mexican national player.
Mexican national team player.
Yeah.
I thought about it how I was going to say it before I said it, Brent. It's not like I was like, well, I didn't like that guy. Andy was a fucking Mexican, so, I thought about it.
All right, Brent, what are your answers to these 37 questions all rolled into one?
Yeah, Pedro is the obvious answer for this. I think the frequency that he gets calls, even when they're not warranted, is probably especially frustrating. And I don't think that we have a player that would necessarily be one of those guys that consistently goes up like right to the line of dirty or violent. So for that one, it's definitely Pedro. As far as an infamously dirty MLS player that I hate playing against, but one on my team,
Kamara, obviously.
He's not infamously dirty as a player, Drabs.
Infamously dirty, Brent.
No,
he's dirty,
not.
Dirty boy.
But if you're giving that to me as an option, I'll take it. Kai Kamara, let's go.
No, pick another person. You don't think he's dirty. You think you literally wash his butt clean with your tongue.
He wants to get dirty with him in the bedroom.
Yeah. You lick him clean. That's what keeps him from being dirty.
I mean, somebody's got to do it. Jeez. I have to pick somebody else.
I mean, you don't have
I don't know. I don't tend to like those guys even on my team. Like, I don't think Steven Lenhart really played like that as a member of the crew. So I don't remember him.
You are having some real selective memory there, my friend.
Am I? Okay, maybe I am. I was like 9, so that's fine.
Oh, God.
But I don't know. I don't tend to like it when my team plays like that, so there's not really one that I can think of that I'm like, yeah, let's bring that guy in.
I'm gonna say the most hated crew player on our current roster, and this is gonna sound weird, but bear with me, is Jossie. And I think he's the most hated because you can't hate him. Like, if you're playing against Jossie, he's such a nice and legit and clean playing guy that when he bosses you around and scores on you, like, you can't hate him for it, so therefore you actually hate him for it. He's too nice, and I think that, I think people look at him like, God damn, he's such a good guy, and I'm so mad he scored against us. But I love him, and I want him on my team. Playing this game because I don't want dirty players on our roster, and anybody who has a reputation being dirty for another team, I just don't want him here. Like, even a Christian Martinez drove me crazy with the kind of vaguely shady shit he would do, like the face slaps and stuff, and then he would also dive anytime you made any contact with him. I just don't want that on my roster, so it's a disqualifying thing for me. So the next question comes to us from Julie Stanky. The Stank Lordress asks, if you had a mouse in your living room, which player would you ask to get rid of it for you? John, who's your exterminator on the crew roster?
I'm going to call in Fernando Adi because I think he'd probably stand so utterly still the mouse wouldn't even know he was there and would wander right up to him and he could just pick it up.
All right. Brent, who you got?
Drabs, why don't you go first on this one?
You want me to go first? That's fair. I'm actually going to go the exact opposite of John. I'm picking Diaz because I think he can outrun the mouse. Like, if you get the mouse skittering across the room, Diaz probably beats it to the far wall and then takes a wildly inaccurate shot on your fireplace at the end of the run. Brent, back to you.
All right, I'm going to go with Mensa for this one because I feel like he has two weapons that he could use. He has his friendliness that he might be able to get the mouse to just like come right up to him. And if that doesn't work, he's also a pretty intimidating person just to look at him. so he can scare that mouse right out of the house.
Aww. Okay. The next question comes to us from Mike Cornell, hashtag fuck ocular melanoma. Which crew player, this is another two-part question, which player would start a bar fight and finish it? And then also, which player would start a bar fight and run away? John, who are your scrappers, or who's going to start shit and then be by your side, and then who's going to hide behind you?
Man, I'm going to answer it in reverse order. I think the player that would start the fight, but not necessarily run away, but not participate, shy away from it, is probably Harrison Awful. I bet that dude's super. He's just one of those guys. I bet who's like super mouthy, and he's like standing behind the bigger guys. And he's like, "Yeah, I bet you won't do it. I bet you won't do it," like that kind of thing, you know. And meanwhile, Mensa's standing there in front of him, like the guy who's gonna obviously have to take the hit. And let's see, what player would start a bar fight and finish it? I don't know. I'm gonna say Artur. I don't think he is like out seeking a fight, but I think he might be the kind of guy who is, if in the position, wouldn't hesitate to knock some dudes senseless.
Brent, who are your two?
The player that would start a fight and finish it, I'm going to go with Aloy Room. If memory serves, the last few times there have been confrontations in front of his net, he's had to have his teammates pull him away from the confrontation rather than protect him. So he's definitely an aggressive guy that would not back down from anybody. The player that would start a fight and not finish it, that's going to be Pedro. Pedro is obviously very passionate when it comes to yelling at people. You can see him doing it pretty often. But then as soon as anybody gets within 6 inches of his face, he's fallen down.
Can't argue with that. I can't believe nobody said this. The guy who starts a fight and finishes it is clearly Vito. And how dare none of you even consider him in this context? That guy 1,000% has never walked away from a fight.
I almost don't even consider him on the team.
Well, yeah. I mean,
that dude has 1,000% not even walked off the field this year.
There is that, yeah. But no, I do feel like that's the one guy in a bar fight I absolutely want in front of me, as I'm just sort of like talking shit, not even over his shoulder, but under his shoulder. I'm sort of peeking out from the side, like talking trash, and I'm going to let him finish it off for me. Conversely, it's easy pickings, but the guy who starts a fight and then takes off is definitely Fernando Adi. That's literally his entire professional playing career, in addition to just who he seems to be as a person. Okay, the next question comes from user Nordekian. Which crew player, current or former, would you least want to introduce to your or Morgan's sister? John, as somebody who has a sister, who do you not want to see knocking on her door?
Well, at least probably Andres Mendoza. I feel like that's just like he's just literally a bucket full of STDs with legs. Like
that is totally legit. Brent, what about you? Brent, do you have a sister? I realize I have no idea.
I do, and those are two very different questions, whether you're using, mine or Morgan's.
I mean, you answer however you want, buddy.
All right, so the player that I would least like to introduce to Morgan's sister would have been Robbie Rogers, because Morgan would have had no issue with that.
Wait, what?
Well,
I see. You want
know if you're
somebody
aware of
who's
this.
going to stress Morgan out. Okay,
Yes.
I had to follow you. Listen,
Yes,
Brent, your
Robbie
logic is very understated here. Yeah.
And that would not bother Morgan at all.
Okay, so you're picking someone to torment Morgan. Got it.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Oh my
That's why I said that they would be very different answers.
All right. Well, what about your sister?
Let's see. I'm going to go with Christian Martinez. I don't know. There was something about that guy. I just didn't like him, like any of his time here, and I just feel like he's probably a huge jerk. I might be wrong. He might be a very nice person, but he just seems like a total douche.
I don't disagree with that. I don't have a sister, but if I did, I can tell you I would least want to introduce Emilio Renteria to her, because that dude would rip any woman in half. I just don't. I don't need that sort of that kind of dong in my family tree, if I'm going to be entirely honest.
Darby's feeling inadequate.
Oh, 100. I know that if I stood next to Renteria at a set of urinals, like I would like my penis would just shrivel up inside my body and never come out again.
Yeah, first of all, you can't stand next to Renteria at urinals because he has to stand a few feet back farther than a normal guy, so you can't actually be next to him. But...
Right. And he also takes up 2 urinals at the same time.
Listen. As someone who has a sister, let me tell you, at some point you have to make peace with the fact that she's going to be getting dick. So she, as someone who cares about her, I hope that she's at least getting good dick, you know? I want everyone I care about to be getting laid and laid well.
You heard it here first, everybody. John wants his sister getting good dick.
My sister's dated some losers, okay? I'm glad she's moved on.
All right. Well, the final question of the week this week comes to us from user MLS Amy. Amy of Mini Tailgate fame, who brings us wonderful, delicious baked goods when we have tailgates, which is not this year, and I'm very sad about that. Lads, which player would you most like to go trick-or-treating with? John, who you want next to you on Beggars Night?
I'm going to go with Jonathan Mensah, actually, here. He just seems like he's such a joyful, fun dude. I bet he would be down to do any kind of crazy, 2-person costume I could come up with. And, he'd just be a lot of fun. I feel like he'd really embrace it.
All right. Brent, who do you want to go trick-or-treating with?
Yeah, that was actually going to be very similar to my answer, so I'll go ahead and change it real quick just for the sake of getting somebody else in there. You know what? I'm going to go with the tag team duo of Aiden Morris and Sebastian Berhalter.
You're going to take the actual children.
Yes, exactly.
It's
like
avoid
the guys that have their own children and go with the guys that are, still young and probably a little bit foolish. Avoid collecting the candy and maybe throw some eggs, some toilet paper.
You're going to be doing some
shaving
tricks,
cream,
not some treats.
Absolutely.
This is like last week when you tried to give a man ball to the tandem of midfielders. You're cheating, Brent. You're cheating.
It's actually not like that at all. They live together. They do just about everything together. They would go trick-or-treating together.
A lot of people are saying they're the same person.
I've heard that multiple times.
Well, I appreciate the kind-hearted approach that you guys took with this question, because my answer was Harrison Awful, because I assume that being 135 pounds, he's going to eat 2 Tootsie Rolls and be full, and so I get all the candy. So I'm going with Harrison Awful. All right. So that was a lot of questions of the week that we just answered. Was that a good thing? Should we do that again, or should we just chalk that up to a bad experience? I enjoyed that.
I liked that more than our questions, coming up with our question.
Yeah, I did too. That was pretty fun.
Yeah. So next week, if y'all want to throw some more questions at us and get your Twitter name mentioned on a garbage podcast that nobody listens to, hit us up with some questions to consider. All right. So should we? I guess this is the part where we award man balls. I literally have no idea who I'm going to give them to because it ain't nobody on the crew roster. Do you guys have any ideas for yours?
I got mine. I'll go first.
Okay, go for it.
I'm going to give my first man ball actually to you, Darby, for coming up with this new question thing and asking people to submit questions and it going well. And congratulations on not fucking that up. And then my second man ball is going to go ahead and I'm going to give it to, former crew defender Alex Crognale for winning Defender of the Year for his current team, Birmingham.
All right. I like it. And thank you very much, John. I appreciate being recognized for my greatness. Brent, who are your man balls going to this week?
I'm actually going to use one of mine to take one away from the entire crew roster. If you guys will go ahead and allow that real quick.
I'm good with it.
And then the second one, I'll actually give to mother of former crew defender Alex Crognale, Karen Crognale, for that delightful video thread that she made today of Eli making pizza with his grandfather. That was a lot of fun and, quite honestly, one of the brightest spots of my week, so I appreciated that.
Yeah, that was going to be one of mine. So I'm going to give a man ball then to Henry Crognale for tolerating Eli's presence and putting forth like his young know-it-all attitude where Henry was just fucking putting him in his place left and right. I loved everything about that. What a true champion. And for my second man ball, I would like to take away every award that Caleb Porter has ever been given at any point in his life. You said we were going to win all the silverware, and we're about to be 0 for 5 on silverwares going into the playoffs. So good job, Coach. All right, let's preview some games because we got 2 games coming up before next we speak, and as it turns out, they're pretty fucking important games. The first one coming up is on November 1st against the Philadelphia Union. They are the leaders in the East. They are the leaders in the Supporter Shield standings at 13, 3, and 5. This is going to be a home game for the Crew. John, it doesn't get any bigger than this. What are you looking for in this game?
Man, I'm just looking for some fucking fight. I'm looking for some suggestion that this Crew team wants to continue playing and is interested in a postseason. I'm looking for some competency. I'm looking for hopefully the full starting 11 that we are all expecting. Barring injuries and stuff, I'm expecting Nagby. I'm expecting Lucas. I saw that they both made substitution appearances in 2 games in a row now. It's probably time for them to get back to starting. Let's go. This is it. This is your last chance to prove yourself. A good showing against Philadelphia can make a big difference on the roster. From a morale perspective, in the fan base, from a belief perspective. There's a lot, I think, riding on the line here. I don't know what the metrics and stuff are as far as how much attention Columbus is paying to the Crew this year, but this is the final full year before this new stadium opens. You want to end on a good note if you're hoping to keep selling season tickets and stuff for that new stadium next year too. I mean, this is an aspect that we haven't really touched on at all. But, there's a lot more riding on the line for this team than just on-field performances. There's a lot of future success and, just profits riding on their performance. People are more likely to buy tickets for a good team that's winning, that's making the postseason and making a bit of a push. So I'm hoping for some signs of life.
Brent, what are you looking for in this game?
So I actually sat down, I think it was last week, and watched the Union versus Revs game. And that was boring as all get out. I think the Union scored in the first half, and then nobody else scored in that game, and it just looked like garbage. And then they went and played Toronto and beat them like 5-1. So I don't really know which Philly team to expect in this matchup. Kind of like you don't know which Crew team to expect. I do know that Andre Blake got hurt in the last game, so they will have to move to what is the loser that used to be our backup keeper? Bendick. Joe Bendick. Wow. Okay. But Joe Bendick is the Union's backup goalkeeper. So if they have to go to him, then, I would expect more offensive output than I would have expected in the first place. But John hit the nail on the head. I want to see signs of life from this team. That is the best phrase to use. You have played a few games in the last 2 weeks where you have shown little to no energy, and it just looks like you don't care to be out on that field. Reverse that and fix it in this game.
Yeah, for sure. Philadelphia right now is the hottest team in the league. They have won 5 of their last 6. They are undefeated in those 6 games. But, I do look at their schedule, and as John pointed out earlier, they're not great on the road. They're very vulnerable. They're 3-3-4. Which is, still better than the Crew is on the road, but this is a home game for the Crew. And as I look back, that 5-0 win against Toronto is absolutely a statement game. But otherwise, their wins have been Chicago, New England, Montreal, Cincinnati, Miami, Montreal again, New England again, Red Bull, DC United, Red Bull again, Miami. Like they're getting the results you should get against bad teams, but a lot of their results are against bad teams. I think they kind of benefited from that regional play approach that the league had to take this year. I'm not sure in a normal season this is a world beater team. They're a good team and they're certainly a playoff team. But this is a team that's certainly vulnerable, especially if the Crew bring their best roster and, as Brent said, their best play. If you bring your passion, if you play like you did against NYCFC as opposed to all the other fucking games you played recently, and I use play with air quotes in those contexts because you barely did anything resembling soccer. You can get a good result here, and it can be a statement win. It can be what helps you finish the season strong. It can be the momentum that kickstarts you into the playoffs, but you've got to win this game. If you don't win this game, you're looking at probably being on the road in the playoffs. And like I said before, the Crew do not want that. And then speaking of road games, arguably the second most important game of the season comes 3 days later against Orlando, who are currently tied with the Crew for 4th in the East, the only tiebreaker being the Crew having one more win than Orlando does. Orlando's 9-3-8, and this game will be down in Orlando. So, John, after coming off of the Union, then what do you expect? Porter said he's bringing his top roster to all 3 games.
Yeah, I'm again expecting that preferred starting 11. Your Nagbees, your Lucases, your Rooms, your Mensahs, and I would suspect not for Philly, but I would imagine for Orlando, Williams will be back in there next to Mensah. Orlando's not had a great run of form lately. They won their game against Atlanta most recently last Wednesday, but Atlanta's not a good team. And the game prior to that, they actually lost to Miami, another not very good team. And then prior to that, they had 3 draws, all really low scoring. 2 of them were 1-1 draws, and the third one was a 0-0 draw. That 0-0 draw also being against the Atlanta team that they just beat. So their form is, kind of in the shits. comparable a bit to ours recently. So they're not as hot and scary as I maybe would have said they were when we were going into that game against them originally. So I think that this is potentially, a winnable game and a must-win game given the position of them and us in the standings. They're neck and neck, tied, on basically every category. So,
Brent, what do you feel about this game? Like I said, this is the fight for the final home playoff seed.
Yeah, to echo what John just said, looking at the season stats, our numbers are pretty similar to Orlando's. One of the key differences for me is that they have found a way to get points out of more total games. So we have a couple of extra losses over them. So they're figuring out ways to get points in a game, or a point in a game like the one we just had against DC. So you're gonna have to fight with them. This is not gonna be an easy game. Not that anybody would really expect it to be anyway. But this is another game that going into it, I want to see this team put forth effort and look like they want to be on a field. I think that's the goal for me from here on out going into the playoffs is show me that you care. Show me that this team has heart and has fight.
Yeah, for sure. This is an Orlando team that's in the playoffs for the first time in their existence. This is I think the fifth season they've been in the league now, and came in with the attitude and the winning the stands bullshittery, but they were never a playoff team before now. This is, like John mentioned, they're actually kind of eerily similar to Columbus in terms of where they are. Points per game is the same. The record's nearly identical. The goal differential is identical. They're they're actually undefeated at home, and pretty trash on the road. That's not good. I don't want to be playing this team at home. They're fighting for something. And maybe this is slightly cringeworthy, but they've got a playoffs tab on their website. They're so excited about being in the damn playoffs, they actually altered their website so that they could have just playoff content, I guess. They don't have great recent form necessarily, but I don't love this road game. I mean, we shit the bed on road games against much easier teams than Orlando, and I think this is going to be a battle. This is going to be a harder game than the Union game, I think. So before we do some score predictions, let's go ahead and recap what happened last week. So first, guys, let's talk about that Houston game, shall we? The result was a 1-1 draw. Darby Schnarfus, in the game against Houston, you predicted a 1-1 draw. You get 15 points. John Zadar, Brent Miller, you both predicted wins against Houston on the road, which was a very, very dumb thing to do. John said 2-0, Brent said 2-1. Those were both terribly wrong. You get no points. Moving on to the DC game.
A lot of people are saying that should have been 2-1 in favor of the Crew.
Nobody's saying that because the Crew did not even manage to score one goal, let alone 2 goals. But anyway, going to the DC game, we all foolishly predicted a road win from the Crew against one of the worst teams in the East. We're all very dumb because the Crew lost 1-0. I predicted a 2-1 win. You both predicted a 3-0 win. Oh my God. We all get no points for that game. Now, the prediction standings. In last place, Morgan Hughes, 5 points. He's so bad at this. In next to last place, Brent Lucille Miller with 50 points.
Lucille.
In second place, John Zadar with a respectable but still inferior 60 points. In first place, back on top again, ladies and gentlemen, with 65 points, Darby Schnarfus. That's right. Thank you. Please hold your applause. Okay, now you can applaud.
Literally nobody was applauding, so there was nobody for you to tell to hold that.
Right. And still no applause, so that's great.
Guys, yeah, hi. It's good to be back. So glad to be on the show. Do you want to do some score predictions for this week? Let's do that. Yeah. I'll go first for the Union game. I consider this a must-win. It's you got to keep going. So I'm gonna say the Crew pull this off. I think it's an ugly game. I will say though, God, I don't even know. I'm gonna call for a 2-0 Crew victory. I'm going Sunshine Brigade. I think we get a shutout again for the first time in 8 games. That's my prediction. John, what are your thoughts for this one? What's your score for the Crew Union game? Crew versus Union game.
The Crew Union, who are they playing? Murderers Row? Is this the Nordac?
They're playing against Father Time, and they're losing badly.
And wait, what was your prediction again, Darby?
2-0 Crew win.
A 2-0 Crew win. Okay.
Yes.
I would love it if you would share some of the drugs around, Darby. I am going to predict, because the Crew hasn't had a shutout in, well, frankly, like what, over almost 2 months or a month and a half.
8 games is like 7 days at this point. So. Well,
no, their last shutout was a 2-0 win against Nashville on September 19th. So,
so it's been a month.
Month and a half.
It's a month and a week.
It's a long time, my friend.
Long time.
Yeah, they're not shutting out the best team in the league. It's going to be, man, I really would like to predict a Crew win because I think that they're capable of it. I mean, I know they're capable of it. We've seen it. It's just a matter of, do they even believe it themselves anymore? Well, I think I'm going to do the most dangerous scoreline in the prediction game, my friends.
What?
I'm going to go with a 2-1 Crew victory.
Oh, see, I was too much of a chicken shit
John.
to do it. I acknowledge that. I wanted to predict 2-1, but I'm really terrified it'll be exactly wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going for all the marbles. You got that 15-pointer this week. I got no choice.
All right. No guts, no glory. I respect that. Unless Brent picks 2-1, in which case I don't respect it at all.
Well, I was going to, but I'll go ahead and change just
You're
for the
allowed
sake.
to, Brent. You don't
I know
have
I'm allowed, but I'm
you
going
want
to
to
go
talk
ahead
about
and
somebody who
change
needs
just
to
for the
make up
sake of it.
points. It's Brent.
Traps, I'm 1 game behind you. Calm down.
You're 1 game behind him, like we're 1 game behind Philly, my friend.
It's not the same thing at all.
Oh my God, roasted.
No. See, it is possible for me to make up that amount of points in a single game. It's not possible for the Crew to do that. So that's just a complete false equivalency. How dare you? You guys are going awfully Sunshine Brigade over there. I think this team does lack confidence. They haven't shown that they can pull a result or a win. So I'm going to go 1-1.
1-1, brah. All right. John, why don't you go first for the Orlando game for your score prediction?
Yeah, sure. That's on the road.
Yes.
I don't think that the Crew stands a chance. They haven't won a single game on the road all year. They're not going to suddenly win one against one of the best teams in the league. That said, Orlando's form recently hasn't been great. So I'm going to actually go with, I'm going to go with a draw, and I'm going to say 2-2 draw.
2-2 against Orlando on the road. All right. I'll go next so that Brent can go last on this one, since he's got so much ground to make up. I'm gonna do the reverse most dangerous pick. I'm gonna say it's a 1-2 loss for the Crew against Orlando on the road. I think that game is too much for them. All right, Brent, what's your prediction?
Let's see. Yeah, it's true that Orlando has been in a little bit of a funk, but they are still undefeated at home. So I don't think that we're going to be, the team to hang one on them at this point in the season. So I'm going to go with another draw. John, you said 2-2, yes?
Correct, sir.
Don't know that I have confidence in our offense to score 2. You know what? Screw it. Let's do it. I'll also say 2-2. 2-2 draw.
2 for Brent as well.
It really does depend on Giassi, in my opinion. Like if he's back, if he's healthy, I think the possibility for goals is there. But if he's not, I don't have any confidence in our ability to score without him.
Didn't they list him as 50-50 for the DC game?
They listed him as 50-50 for the upcoming game, I know. I'm not sure about DC.
Oh, I thought they said that before the DC game, so the upcoming game was the... Okay, I might have misunderstood that.
Yeah, if Jossie's not in the lineup, I'm going to completely regret my 2-0 call against the Union. But
well, I don't know why you would predict a shutout against the team that is second place in the league in total goals.
Because I have my reasons. Because mostly I didn't want to predict 2-1 like John did.
The answer here, Brent, is because one of us has stones and one of us doesn't.
Right. And also, one of us is in the lead and one of us is not. I have to hoard that sweet, sweet 5 points. But then again, I'm not the coward who's predicting 2 draws, Brent Miller. So I'm not taking any shit right now. Coward. Predict a win or loss, coward. Do it, coward. Change your predictions, coward. Do it.
Change it?
Yeah. Both of them.
I'm not going to. I feel good about those predictions.
Like what was that? What was that fucking movie with Brad Pitt in it? It's like the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, and it's like the prediction of 2 draws by the coward Brent Miller.
Once again, you guys reference a movie, and I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
I never saw it, but you were an adult during this time, Brent. Shut up.
Okay, I still don't know what movie you're talking about.
Legends of the Fall. Benjamin Buttons.
It's the button of the Benjamin.
Yeah, I don't know. Those are the only movies of his I can remember now, because I'm old and I forget things. Speaking of being old and forgetting things.
Were you guys talking about a princess movie last week? Is that what was happening?
What?
Princess movie. What are you talking about?
I don't know. Drabs told me that I needed to get a Disney Plus subscription to watch the movie that you guys were talking about.
I remember that, but I don't remember what movie we were talking about.
I drink a lot, so it's hard to say.
All right, whatever.
I think
weird
Princess
that you guys are suggesting that I watch
on
Disney Princess
Plus.
movie.
Are you thinking of The Princess Bride?
Brent,
Absolutely not. I have seen The Princess Bride, and I hate it.
princesses aren't just for girls.
Wait, can we revisit the part where Brent Miller said he hates one of the greatest movies ever made? You scumbag piece of shit. Who hates The Princess Bride? What the fuck is wrong with you?
I do. The movie is very annoying.
God.
While I personally enjoy The Princess Bride, I can certainly see how someone might find it annoying.
I think that the worst part is the bald dude that just runs around saying inconceivable the whole time. Yeah, that. It's horrible and ugh.
Wallace Shawn is a national treasure, you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
love of that movie. Prepare to die.
Well, like world-renowned leftist socialist Wallace Shawn.
Is he's a socialist? All right. I like him even better now. He was, of course, best known for his role in Deal of the Century with Chevy Chase. That's not true. I mean, he was in that movie, but it's fucking terrible.
I couldn't tell you. I hate Chevy Chase.
A lot of people do, including probably every woman he's ever dated. Oh, he's only been married 3 times. It's fine.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. All right. So, Brent, apart from hating things that are good, do you have any comments on things I might have forgotten or neglected to mention tonight?
No, I think John did a pretty good job of making sure you got everything in there.
Thank you very much, Brent. It's a real treat to wrangle Darby.
Yeah, you can wrangle these, John. All right. So we got nothing to talk about, and we'll be back in a week to talk about hopefully things that weren't losses.
Well, that will be the final episode of the regular season.
Well,
right, or no?
No, because we've still got.
There's one game against Atlanta.
Yes, we've got a game against Atlanta, and then presumably we would have at least an interim episode talking about going into the playoffs. I'm not sure how the timing. I think the playoff games start November 20th, so we might have a surfeit of time.
That seems like a really long break.
It is. So I don't know if we'll have one episode or two, but regardless, we'll be here next week. We'd be here the week afterwards to at least wrap up the Atlanta United, the season finale at home.
We'll be here till the Crew cruise themselves out of the playoffs.
Right. We will keep talking bullshit and nonsense until they are done playing bullshit and nonsense. So, in honor of the recently departed head coach of the LA Galaxy, all of Lord Guillermo's people said, sorry about getting fired.
You're fired.
Oh, how dare you.
Hashtag sad.
Hashtag Brent, unmute your fucking microphone. No, he's not going to do it.
No, you can't make me.
He doesn't believe in the whisper.
We made him. He did it, John. We tricked him. We fooled him. You and me. We did it together, buddy.
No, sir. I did that because I wanted to. It had nothing to do with you.
You don't get the last word, Brent. I get the last word.